Hello, this is Daryl here, sending love as always. Thank you for tuning in. I just want to say if you like this interview, you can check our website for companion workbooks, action guides, tools, checklists, templates, and show notes with links for everything mentioned on the call. Just visit bestbusinesscoach.ca. That's best, B-E-S-T, businesscoach.ca. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Daryl Urbanski, and welcome to the Best Business Podcast. My mission is to help create 200 new multimillionaire business owners. How? You'll do better when you know better. In my interviews, you'll hear from self-made millionaires, seven-figure business owners, authors, and world-class experts sharing how they did it so you can too without experiencing the same obstacles they did. Now, if you like this interview, please share it with a friend you think will benefit. They'll appreciate it, and I will as well. You can also connect with me on social media. Look for Daryl Urbanski, D-A-R-Y-L, Urban Ski, U-R-B-A-N-S-K-I, and add me so we can be friends. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy what I've prepared for you right here, right now. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Daryl Urbanski, your host as always, and today we are joined by a longtime friend and winner of the 2010 Infusionsoft Ultimate Marketer of the Year Award, Bob Britton. And Bob got his start in business with an auto repair shop. He took a small one-man show shop and grew it into multiple locations, generating millions in revenue in just a few short years. Being an avid computer geek since childhood, Bob took his techie knowledge and applied it to business automation to triple the sales and profits in his business. He then started two other businesses, Computer Service Profits, a company that helps small IT business owners utilize powerful marketing strategies, and Marketing Automation Group, a team of highly motivated entrepreneurs working together to implement automation in their businesses and reap tremendous rewards in doing so. Winning the Infusionsoft Ultimate Marketer Award came from his unique ability to combine technology with traditional business to see massive improvements in efficiency and profits. Bob now spends his time helping other small business owners realize their dreams and duplicate the success he's enjoyed. Bob lives in upstate New York with his high school sweetheart, two children, and is taking time away from them today at my request so he can share with us some of his best business growth and automation secrets. So, Bob, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to talk. How you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. Really, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here today.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were talking about this before. In some circles, people are a little bit more not internet, but just automation savvy. But, there's a ton of people out there who just like small hinges swing such big doors, and they just, they're just so unaware. And like you said, I think once you said you stepped out into like communities outside of Infusionsoft, and it was just like light bulbs going off for everybody out there. And it's life-changing information for a lot of these people. Like it's massive. So
Totally.
yeah, so I really appreciate it because I'm hopeful that there's a couple of people listening to this call today whose lives will be changed, because I know that when you were up on stage, you were talking about you did the triple. I remember you did a presentation. You're like, I did the triple. I tripled my profits, I tripled my business projects, and I tripled my time off, or it was something like that. I think that was the third.
Like that.
Was that the third one? Yeah, you were like, I did and I was like, oh, like my jaw, like I was drooling. Like they had to bring him up because I was like, how did he do? Because at the time I was doing the 16-hour grind and all that sort of stuff. And then so I appreciate that, man. You for spurring me into action. So.
That's awesome. Well, you've done some amazing things since. That's very cool.
I know. It's an interesting journey that all of us are on. So, but how did you even get started? I mean, we touched a little bit that you started off, kind of techie as a child. You had an interest in technology at least. But how did you get to the auto shop? I remember part of your story too, like you bought it and then you were like, what'd I do? Because it was like a terrible location and stuff. And so,
it was like...
Yeah. How did you get started?
So, well, that's... where we start all the way at the beginning, or let's shortcut a little bit. So I'll give you the abridged version. I've always wanted my own business ever since I was a young guy. But I took a job when I was in my early 20s as a mechanic because I got married young and kids came along and I needed a way to support this my young family. And after a short while of working as a mechanic, I was just like, I'm never going to make any real money here. These guys get paid dirt, and it must be the owners that make all the real money. So very quickly I decided I could do better than the other owners that I had worked for. And I was wrong. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was very ambitious, but not really didn't have any of the skills. So I ended up being, buying a business that was in terrible location. It was tremendously in debt. It was failing in every way, in every measure of a good business. This thing was failing, and unfortunately, I didn't really understand what I did. And I bought this thing for $1 million, and I didn't have any money. I just basically promised my life and soul to the previous owner to buy this thing, and that would have been fine if it included any real estate, which it didn't.
Oh,
It didn't
no.
include any equipment. Everything
What?
was worn out. It was like old dusty boxes. The customers hated the business. I mean, it was just like in such decline. I look back now, I'm like laughing at myself, like, what the hell? What was I thinking? But you've heard the statement, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger, right? So that is like, I literally lived that. I'm like, all right, well, if I don't pay this guy and I don't grow this company, like, I'm done. They're going to take my house, my car, my kids, everything. And so I was like, it's time to go to work. And I just started pouring myself into direct response marketing, because that location was so bad that you couldn't see this building from the street. You like had to go basically and,
Right.
turn and drive. And so I'm like, I got to make this a destination business. I got to make people want to come here. So I started really pouring myself into direct response, and I read everything. I went to these closed door boot camps and started to learn, started testing things. And, frankly, I got really good at it. And I started just like jamming that business with cars. And we actually had to like rent parking lots that were down the street, park cars down the street, because there's so many cars were coming in. And so I got really good at that, except I had another painful lesson to learn there, which is I call my churn and burn. So yeah, I got really good at driving in a ton of new business, and the staff that I had, because I didn't have any management skills, all they did is burn them out as fast as I was bringing them in. So
Right.
it was
Right.
like, it was terrible. It was like, oh my God, now I'm spending money to bring these people in. I'm bringing them in and we're pissing them off and they're not coming back. So I had to really learn the management side of things. And luckily I found a mentor, and, that really changed everything for me. He helped me to start really, focus on the right things, make good decisions, get good people, and grow that business. So that's really what that's
made the
the abridged
difference.
version of it.
Yeah, no, but it's good. And there's a couple of key, first of all, if anyone's listening to this and they're in any sort of high pressure situation, know that, massive growth can come out of it. And that really, without that need, without that pressure, there's nothing feels like success. I've heard that saying said before, and honestly, it's even a bit of a problem. I feel like I have now that at least in the sense that it's not as hungry as I was when I was first starting out, and you're like roofing ramen, like you're just trying to make it by at the end of every month, so it's funny, but when you're on the other end of it, you really appreciate those early days. So that's true too. And I like that you said that how you got a mentor, because in truth, like, I don't know anyone who's ever won a gold medal at the Olympics or anyone who's ever really done much in business without some sort of coaching and guidance, right? So, so what were some of the big how did you make it a destination? That one, I just piqued my interest when you said that, because it was this little, like you said, you couldn't really see it, terrible location, rundown equipment. So how do you do that? How do you take a brick and mortar business and make it like a destination business?
Well, you learn marketing, and you get really creative with the things that you do. You've got to really differentiate yourself. If we talk about a key in any market, especially in a competitive market like that was in auto repair, you've got to differentiate yourself. And how do you do that? Well, it's driving perception. And a lot of business owners don't understand that, it's our job as the owner to put out the perception of what we are and who we are and what we do. But if we don't take on that role and take that role seriously, then people lump us into the same category as everyone else, and there's no differentiation, and therefore you can't charge premium prices because you're not different. You're the same as everyone else. But what they miss is that's not the customer's fault. It's ours.
Right.
We're not putting out the messaging, and every aspect of your business has to feel, smell, taste, whatever different than everyone else. The way you handle things, the way you communicate, all of it. And when you really do a good job at looking at all those aspects, your customer gets the perception, which is the reality, right? Perception is reality. And they get the perception that you are totally unique and different and special, and that changes everything.
Yeah. I really agree with that. Especially because it can make a huge difference whether you're just another. Was it that 80% of people leave businesses due to indifference? Like, why is this place any different than anywhere else I could go? So now with automation, I know a lot of people say that, but doesn't automation make things sound robotic and like, Isn't that a big danger if you automate things that then everything you kind of lose personality and that human touch?
Yeah, I don't know. I think people make too much out of that. I think that there's a time when it makes sense to automate certain things because, look at Uber, right?
Yep.
Uber is a perfect example of automation taken to the 11th degree,
Yep.
and I freaking love it. I Uber all the time, everywhere I travel. And could it be is it impersonal? Okay, but the darn thing shows up on time when I know it's going to show up. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
I think that it's really more of a perception than a reality. And if you're really doing a good job of keeping the personality in your communication, then the automation piece is just a matter of how the thing gets delivered. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about today, Daryl, and I hope that maybe I'm not segueing here, but you started to talk about what was my greatest challenge, and we went off on the tangent of marketing and how do I make it a destination business. But the truth is, the biggest challenge that I've had, and I did have, and I continue to work on, is my own head. My feelings of doubt, my insecurity, my fears. Those are the things, looking back, are the things that my mentor helped me a lot with, but also were some of the biggest hurdles. Like, I didn't even realize the things that I was doing to self-sabotage, to screw myself up, like limiting beliefs that I had. And the more I tended to kind of dig into that area and get those things right, all of a sudden, a lot of these other pieces just fell into place.
Yep.
And so I think I know that's we're on a marketing and automation call, but it's just so important that I wanted to bring that up because that's the thing that really hit home for me, and it's something that I think that a lot of the clients that I work with struggle with. Even some of them are conscious of it, some of them aren't conscious of it, but it does mess with people an awful lot.
Oh, it does. I mean, a lot of, especially the really kind of high achiever type of entrepreneur, because we're so, I don't want to say powerful, but I think like we're such good implementers and we're really good at creating things in our life that we want, that we are so dangerous. I can actually relate to a client that I know that's built a multi-million-dollar company and had sort of a squabble with a vendor, and it started to affect their business more than anything else. And it wasn't like, and it was mostly, like you said, it was just because their focus, like, do you know what I mean? It's almost like there's a movie, X-Men, and there's, what's his name? The guy that's got the laser beam vision. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh. Yeah, I do know. I can't remember.
I can't remember his name either. It's not Cyclops or whatever. But anyways, he's like with Wolverine. Yeah. He's like with Wolverine then. But it's like that. Whatever we focus on will grow. Like, we're so good at that. So if you take our eye off the prize, there's actually even a really good interview for Eric Schmidt, CEO of Google, did with Fortune magazine, where he was recommended to get a coach, and he was like, I don't need a coach. Why would I need a coach? Am I doing something wrong? And it was like, no, but everybody needs a coach, because you when you're in the game, it's really hard to watch what you're doing and when you're focusing on the wrong things, and and you're missing the bigger picture. So I think that mindset piece is really huge. Having trained a lot of athletes myself too, people just get down, they get frustrated. You have mood swings. You don't even family influences you. You don't even know what's going on. So all right.
I found that people get messed up over money too. They like the fear of loss is greater than the desire for gain a lot of times. So people will be like, oh, I don't know about this. I'm like, what do you, I mean, I had not a fight, but I had, one of my favorite clients I've been working with for a long time. And we went round and round. I'm like, you need to start doing pay-per-click advertising. She's like, oh, that's like gambling online.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not. Know what you're doing. And trust me, I'm right here with you. We went round. It took her like a long time to really get her head right around it. And now it's her number one strategy for making money. It's like printing money for her now, but it was a long time for her to get there. So anyway.
Funny. No, I fully agree. It's so funny because they'll hire a sales rep and they'll pay that sales rep like a baseline salary, like $2-3 grand a month plus commission, and that sales rep can fumble around for 2-3 months. But if they spend $1,000 on ads and they don't get a result, it's like, they're burning money. I totally get that. that. So mindset's such a huge thing. And even just people don't get that. Somehow, you mentioned positioning and marketing, but even just in the problems that we have, how you look at it can change everything about it for you. It can either be the biggest problem and it can be like a nightmare scenario and the sky is falling, or it could be your biggest opportunity. So now I do want to ask, so mindset was a big one, figuring out how to do marketing. And so for you said it was positioning, it was direct response. Can you talk a little bit about why direct response? versus like branding?
Yeah, well, branding is awesome if you're, a multi-billion-dollar company. You got money to burn, and that's not entirely true. You don't have to be a huge company to use branding, but you have to understand how to use branding. When you're getting started, and if you're like I was, where the pockets were not that deep, and you needed every dollar to count, then I want a scenario, and I think that most of my clients do, is that if I spend $1 on an ad or some type of marketing or promotion, then I want 10x back. I want $10 back in my pocket. And until I've solved and cracked that code and that equation is now working, you shouldn't be really focusing on anything else other than that. You've got to stay in that space of, all right, I'm going to be obsessed with attracting customers that convert to buyers, or attracting prospects that convert to buyers. And that's really lesson number one. And so direct response is the fastest, most effective way to get that kind of result. And, I had a mentor, my mentor said to me, he's like, look, direct response is the kind of marketing that will get somebody off the couch. They're sitting on the couch. They got a cold beer next to them. They're about ready to watch their favorite football game. And your message comes in front of them, and it'll get them off the couch, over to the phone, to pick up the phone and call you. That's the kind of marketing that you want to do. And I'm like, all right. So I kind of always keep that in the back of my head, like, all right, that's the goal.
Right. Yeah, I'm right here with you. I definitely agree with that. So first you had to figure out how to market. You had to figure out how to do results-based marketing, which I think can be really tough because the tough reality is it's a lot easier to what do I want to say? It's a lot easier to, it's a lot easier to either just jump on the new shiny objects, bandwagon, or to be like, well, I'm a content marketer and I'm, it's going to take time, or I'm doing SEO and it takes 8 to 16 months, versus the real raw, like, look, I made this many offers to this many people and nobody responded. I got 1 million impressions and I got no orders. So I really think that. So figuring out marketing, the mindset, what were some other big key challenges that forced you to, in the early days, to kind of to figure all this stuff out?
Well, I think I had to really figure out that the money in the marketplace goes to the guy or the person who's perceived to be like the best. And I don't know how to phrase that so that everyone understands. But when you're building a company, you're building a business, if you're seen as the same as everyone else, then you really can't be at the top of that. But when you step out of that and create a new category or create a different way that you're doing things, you're seen as the leader or the expert. And the leader and expert never has a shortage of customers or people wanting to give them money. And in fact, they can charge anything they want because they're seen and perceived as this separate, unique type of thing. They have their own way of doing things, and it's extremely valuable. So people will line up to give you money. And in auto repair, that was really difficult to do in terms of marketing. And speaking of difficult things, I was joking with somebody the other day, but it's really true. Like, I got to be a really good salesman. Like I did, because in the situation I was in, I had to sell something that nobody wants, auto repair, at a profit margin nobody wanted to pay for. So it's like, think about it for a second. Like, who wants to spend $1 more on their car repairs than they have to, right? Nobody in their right mind. And so in the situation I was in, I had to sell it at a really high profit margin. My labor rates were higher than everyone else. And so I got really good at selling. And the other day I was selling something and it was like $12,000, which now is like, no big deal. But then that was huge for me.
Right.
And so I got really, really good at selling stuff. And then I'm selling other things. Move on many years later, I've sold all kinds of products and services, millions of dollars worth of various stuff. And it's easy because I actually sell stuff that people want now and they want to buy. I'm like, oh my God, I just had this realization that I'm selling things that people want. And that makes it so much easier. So getting back to your thing, your question is like really focusing in on it becoming not only just unique, but a completely new category in your niche or in the marketplace that you're in can really make you the standout leader, and then price becomes almost irrelevant.
Right,
you know?
right. Now, if anyone there struggles with sales, you mentioned that you had to learn how to become a good sales rep or salesperson and how to do selling. Like, what would you recommend to someone who's starting out or who's struggling or, who just has a lack of confidence, I guess, in trying to ask for payment?
Two things. Well, there's two parts to that. First, maybe let's deal with the mental part of that a little bit. So, one thing that I found to be extremely helpful is just like choose a financial goal, like whatever it is, whatever you think you can get to, per month. I kind of like to do the per month, like, all right, so this much per month I want to make. And then you want to list all of the reasons that you can do it. So set a timer on your phone or whatever, give yourself 5 minutes and list all the real valid reasons that you believe are true that you can get to that goal. And then every morning before work, read them. That strategy is extremely powerful. Like, it'll really help with the head junk and the motivation too, by the way, will go through the roof. So you choose that goal, you list all the reasons for 5 minutes, put them all down, everything that you can do that you believe in your heart is true about you that will help you get to that goal. It's a valid reason why you can do that. And then read it every day. So that's the mental side. The other side is just get some training. Like, if you're not good at sales is not a built-in innate thing. It is a learned skill, especially if you take it to an art form. When you get really, really good at it, you are somebody that has worked at it, has thought about it, has practiced. I mean, I've screwed up more sales than probably most of the people on this planet, but I've done that, and I've learned every time the nuances and the little details, and that makes me, I get smarter and smarter because I screw it up all the time. So I would say get some training, find great people, find really good books. One of my favorite books on selling is called Spin Selling. It's a fantastic book. It's really an easy read, but it's great for people who are starting out. Helps get your head right about what is the sales game and understanding the process. And just by reading that, all of a sudden your awareness of what's going on around you will expand, and you'll be like, oh my God, I'm being sold. I didn't even realize it before. And they're using this technique. I got them. It's pretty interesting. The other one is The Art of Closing the Sale by Brian Tracy. I love that. I used to, when I was driving back and forth to the shop, I had it on tape. This is way back in the tape days. And I would listen to it every day back and forth to work. And I learned like all these little phrases and these little, I just learned, and I became a student of that. And that was tremendously helpful. I think you can get it on his website now for like $20 or maybe even less. Phenomenal value right there.
Brian Tracy's amazing. His marketing director of like 10 plus years was actually on our show. Chelsea Frederick, if anyone wants to check that out, definitely go check out that interview. It's funny, Gary Bencivenga is one of the world's most legendary and cited as the highest or best performing living copywriter today. And he always says he breaks down every sale into two parts: opening the sale and then closing the sale. So it's interesting that this was the art of closing the sale. So the opening part is to just identify the right prospect and to create the desire, and that it's for me kind of feeling. Then the closing sale is obviously overcoming what I think tends to be mostly those mental hurdles. Because you talked about the mental game, and I wonder, I'm not really a self-proclaimed great salesperson, but I do think I can be pretty persuasive. Would you agree that in a lot of the sales, that's almost what it is helping people through their own psychological BS? Like even just...
I'm going to interrupt you there. I'm with a resounding yes. I think that the way I look at it is people, if you've got something that's truly going to help somebody and it solves the problem that they have, then there really is actually no logical reason for them to say no. If they've got the problem and you've got the solution, and you know that your solution will make a pretty big impact in their life and fix whatever this problem is that they've got,
right,
then why would they say no?
Right.
And so the sales process is actually helping them overcome that mental junk that messes them up, or the self-sabotage, or the fear of loss, versus the desire for gain. All of those things come into play in the sales situation.
Right.
The trust is a big thing too. Like, is this actually going to deliver for me?
Right.
So, yep, definitely.
That's a really good analogy. Like, because I guess if I had the cure for arthritis,
And I just knew, like anybody I could convince to take these pills for 3 weeks, their arthritis pain, if not completely eliminated, would be reduced drastically, 80%, 90%. You know,
Right.
like you said, it's almost as a business owner, it's my duty to help, like, you know, to become an evangelist for this cause and to find everybody suffering I can and get them to take these pills. But like you said, if they don't know me, if they've never seen me off the street from, you know, Joe Blow or whoever else, you know, like you said,
Yep.
there's no trust, there's no reason for them to believe me. But I don't know, any people listening, you have to think about how would you approach that then? Like, you know, that confidence in your own product and, you know, not even willing to be like, look, you're being stupid right now. You just need to just try the damn pills. Look, and that's even where the whole like risk reversal comes, right? Like, look, just try the damn pills, buy the bottle. If after 3 weeks you don't have any difference and you've taken the pills, because if you don't take the pills, it's your own damn fault, you know, then call me and I'll give you your money back. But it's not going to happen because this stuff is amazing. And here's a list of 40,000 other people that have taken it, been cured. So just, you know, is that...
Well, you hit on an important thing there, Daryl. You know, the real, and if somebody stopped me and said, Bob, you know, what do you think is the single most important thing in sales or in business or in anything? It is absolutely your own personal confidence. Because I can teach people the skills, I can teach them the techniques, I can give them tools, but at the end of the day, it's the confidence that wins over 100%. Because if you're talking about your product, your service, your business, whatever you're doing, and you don't have absolute unwavering confidence in yourself and what you're doing and how it's going to help people, how the hell is somebody else going to be able to believe in you if you don't?
Right. It's like
You know
that's...
what? And some of the things I work on with my clients is like I actually have to sell them on themselves. Like, you know, I was working with a client today. I was like, you have a phenomenal product, don't you? Well, yeah. Okay. Does it help people? Yeah. All right. Well, your competitor is charging 5 times more than you are. Oh, yeah, but they're just really expensive. Okay. But does your product help people the same as that? Well, yes, it may be more. Okay. So maybe you should be 10 times more expensive, you know?
Yeah.
Like it was a mental junk there that, you know, like I can never charge that much. Well, why not? Have you ever tried? No. Oh, okay. Well, so that confidence, but you know what, it comes with, that's where a coach can be extremely valuable too, is somebody to say, hey, you know, it's okay to be afraid to ask for that kind of money, or it's okay to be afraid of it, but let's try it and see what happens. And and here's some tools and some resources that'll help you get to that point, you know? Just smashing through those barriers, you know?
Yeah, right. And now, is that some of the, like, because I was going to say, like, what are some of the greatest, you've worked with a ton of clients and you help automate a ton of different businesses. So what are kind of the most common mistakes you see your clients making? It's confidence, it's the mental hurdle. What else are kind of the things that trip people up?
Oh man, there's a long list. Confidence is definitely one of them. Not having really invested in sales or sales skills or sales training. Shiny object syndrome is awful. Like I see, let's be frank, I know this is like an automation kind of thing, but honestly, when I approach working with a business owner or a client at any point, they say, well, do I need an automation tool like Infusionsoft or Entreport? Do I need one of these things? And the answer is absolutely no. Under no circumstance, because almost every single person I work with, they haven't done the foundational pieces of the work that they need to do before that becomes really valuable.
Right.
So you've got to understand your market. You've got to understand your messaging. You've got to understand your avatar. You've got to do work around that area and then create powerful marketing messaging that really attracts people, that converts. Then we can automate that. But if we try to put this other automation piece first, we end up with an extra layer of complexity that just messes people up.
Yeah, garbage in, garbage out. You can.
Totally
I love that. Yeah, because you can automate. Like I can show you how to automate an entire business, but if you're like if it's garbage, if it's like you said, if you're pissing people off, if it's non-responsive working, then you've got an automated turd. Really.
I can tell you from my turn and burn story, you don't want that. You need the proof of concept first, and then we'll crank it up to the nth degree and increase the profits. You know, when I won the Ultimate Marketer Award those years ago, the reason I was able to grow that business and do what I did was because I already had those other foundational pieces in place, and then automating it. All it did was drop profit to the bottom line.
Right,
you know?
right.
Without those other pieces. In fact, if you look back at, and I don't know, I have, the more recent Ultimate Marketers I don't know as well, but I definitely knew the people that were there and working it back in the day, and every single one of them that really automated their business and did a great job with it already had phenomenal marketing prior to putting in the automation piece.
Yeah. Like Greg's is, I'd say, probably one of my closest friends, and it's funny because he's an automation guru too. But a lot of his clients, he's like, let's start you off with the manual process first, because you got to be in the trenches. You gotta get dirty. You got to be in it. I think a lot of people are afraid of work in some, and it's kind of a shame. Like for work and service, like actually talk. Yeah, you got to pick up the phone, talk to your customer. Look, I know you'd rather just sit at home watch TV, but if you want to grow a business, you're gonna have to do some work. You're gonna have to be actually invested, and so that might come back to even another point of like trying to make sure that your life purpose is in line with what you're trying to build a business around. Because if you're a dentist but you just despise your clients and you just despise being in that chair, like, you know what I mean? You're just not going to be able to put the time and energy and effort in, like you said, to really to empathize with your clients and be able to create marketing messages and communication messages around that, and referral programs, and like the things that you will need to build a successful business. And then, like you said, and then automate it. So
Exactly.
There's a lot of gems here. I hope people are taking notes, because even when we talk about the things, I mean, it's almost like a checklist. All the things we talk about, like, they're either things to do or things to not do. And people listening to this, hopefully you're getting a really clear picture of what you could be doing or need to be doing in order to achieve the results that you want. So what about habits? So on the day-to-day, like Bob, over 3 businesses plus some, I mean, if you talk about your clients too, do you feel that there's certain habits that you've had in place that have really helped you kind of be consistent and, almost shorten the success cycle, so to speak?
Well, getting negative self-talk would definitely be a bad habit. I see some people fall into that where, I can't do it because of this, that, or the other thing. I think that's really a negative. I call it like this. Like, I call it shoulding on yourself. Like, if you catch yourself like, oh, I should do this or I should do that, and you're spending a lot of time or energy or even any time thinking that way, what you're doing is you're taking power and energy away from yourself and your creativity. And when in the reality is, a lot of people, like, what they're really running up against is what they're good at and what they're not good at. So I for example, I had a client that they needed to write a lead magnet. And so, a lead magnet is something to attract clients to their business. And they would sit down in front of a blank page of Microsoft Word, and month after month, they just weren't getting it done. And he kept saying to me, I should do this, and I know I should. And I was like, whoa, stop, man. You know what? That's not helpful. That's not getting you anywhere, is it? You're not going to do it because you don't like that. He's like, yeah, you know what? You're right. I don't like it. But he was an amazing person to talk to other people. He was super personable. I said, here's what I want you to do. Grab a tape recorder. Go get somebody that is your perfect ideal client, set down the tape recorder and have them interview you, and you interview them and record the whole thing. And then we sent that to a transcriptionist, and then we sent it to an editor, and boom, we had a kick-ass lead magnet that he never wrote a word. All he did was answer questions and talk about stuff, and it was awesome. And so I said, you know what? It wasn't that you're not capable. It wasn't that you're stupid. You're just sitting in front of a keyboard in front of Microsoft Word is just not something you're going to do. But there's other ways to solve the problem. So all that negative junk and this I should and I'm going to knuckle down and white knuckle it and do it. No, you're not. You're not going to do it. That's total fallacy. It's not. We don't work that way. And as human beings, I found it really ineffective to try to make ourselves do something that we're just not going to do.
I love that. Yeah, it was that quote that's like, if a fish went through life being told it needs to be able to climb a tree, it'd spend its entire life thinking it's a failure. I love that. Like, for me, that's kind of like webinars. Like, for whatever it is, I got the content, I got all that, but you want me to build a slide deck and all that and the graphic stuff and hang out in PowerPoint. I did a ton of those when I was a kid, like in my early 20s, but for whatever reason now, it's worse than pulling teeth. Like, I outsource the slide decks and I just do almost like the podcast, like, boom, like, done. I think that's really playing to your strengths and not being afraid of that. I like that, the shoulding. The not shoulding yourself. I know people that, they don't even touch webinars and they do multiple millions. In a time when apparently email is dead and teleseminars are dead, don't listen to the hype. Yeah, don't listen to the hype. It's about communicating with people. So I love that. So
Yep.
you mentioned a lead magnet. So for those that don't know, lead magnet is basically like something you would trade someone to know who they are. So, unless you're in the business, unless you're extremely, extremely persuasive, which I think less than 0.005% of the population is, you need to build relationships with your prospects almost always. And so the concept is you would have something that people would come to you for, and it could be free, it could be a low price point as well, and in exchange for that you get to know who they are, so now you can kind of talk to them over time. Bob, now I want to ask about this though. When it comes to refining your sales pitch and your sales presentation, are you still a fan? Like, would you suggest someone drive traffic to a lead magnet first and then have them hit the sales video or the sales page or get on the phone and sell them? Or would you just have them go straight to lead form or straight to the sales page or sales letter or whatever?
I can tell you that I've worked in now, let's call it 100 different niches, every walk of business, all kinds. And I cannot sit here and honestly say that one thing works better than the other. What I can say is different niches respond differently to different ways of presenting the material. Okay. So, and that's the honest answer. That being said, I have done, from an ad directly to a webinar. I've done from an ad to a lead magnet to a webinar. I've done from an ad to a sales video. I've done from an ad to, a landing page, a squeeze page. You name it, every combination and iteration of that I've tried, and different niches really do respond differently to different things. So, all I could say to people is, hey, let's test things. But my one rule of thumb, which I try to never vary from, is how quickly can I get eyeballs on an offer? Because until you make an offer to somebody, they can't say no, or they can't say yes. So you've got to get an offer in front of people as quickly as possible and see what happens. So, it's measure, rinse, repeat, and then, try again. And again, sometimes adding that extra step in ahead of time. Okay, we need a little more trust. We need a little more authority. Okay, a lead magnet can deliver that. Sometimes we don't need that. It depends on the price point, what we're selling. There's a lot of variables that kind of go into that decision. But at the end of the day, the marketplace always tells you, and they vote with their dollars.
Right. So I love that. So you need eyes on the presentation to know whether it's a webinar, whatever it is.
Eyes on the offer, man.
Eyes on the offer.
Put eyes on the offer. Well, eyes or ears, as the case may be, but in today's world, it's...
And I'm glad you brought that up, because that was actually one of my mental issues. I remember at the beginning. I remember talking with Griggs. He's like, Daryl, eyeballs need to be sacrificed. Like, it's just going to have to happen. Like, you're just, because I was in this like whole, but it's not perfect yet. Like I gotta get the offer perfect. And he's like, yeah, but you just like, that's not for you to decide. It's for other people to decide. Yep. And at the same time, I think there's some of the people listening, there's that fear, like some of these people listening, they probably are sitting on a multi-million-dollar business. They might be in a market where they could be generating millions and millions of dollars, but really they're only doing, maybe a modest 5 figures a year. And it's not because they're not capable of more, it's because they don't know what they don't know, and they're self-limiting. Or maybe there's even that fear of actually being big, and what do I do with that attention? Like even when you talk about like you're so busy that there's, you needed to rent out other parking lot spaces, and I think in some ways that can be intimidating to people, because now everywhere you go around town, everywhere you go, like, there are eyeballs on you, right, Bob? And now you're going to conferences and you're on stage, and suddenly there's like a limelight on you that maybe, some people might be intimidated by. So,
you were asking me like what the biggest mistake people make, and something just zinged into my head. I'm like, I want to make sure I make this point, that just because, like, I'll use an analogy here, just because you know the rules of football, right, American football, doesn't mean you're ready to win the Super Bowl. Right? I mean, you can understand the game, but not really understand the nuances.
Right.
And I think that's one of the big mistakes I see people make. Like, oh, well, I went and bought this online course, and now I'm a certified online marketing genius. Well, okay. You've learned the rules, but you maybe really don't understand the nuances. And so I like to look at things from a more practical standpoint, like, all right, and that's where, again, getting back to, I don't mean to harp on the coach thing, but that's where somebody who's kind of walked the road before can say, well, okay, yes, that's the basic fundamentals, and yeah, you're right, we want to move the ball forward in 4 downs, but there's a little bit more to it than just that. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yep. No, I totally get it. You can read about tennis all day, but until you're on the court swinging at balls, you don't. Yeah.
You don't understand the nuance.
And it's safer, though. It's safer to live in the books, right? It's safer to live in the book. You're not going to get tennis elbow. You're not going to sprain your ankle. You're not going to have the pressure of a deadline, of an actual match, and people watching. Yeah. And did you win or did you fail?
You're not going to drop 20 grand on Facebook ads and get no money as a result of it.
Yeah, yeah.
I've done it.
Yep. I've not 20 grand, but I've definitely spent a ton of money. But you're buying data. I mean, that's what you tell yourself to make yourself feel better. But really, and it's true. But it's like that whole thing. Like if you give up, that's the other side of it. If you give up, then you really lost. You've only actually failed if you give up. If you keep going, then it's all just a cumulative effort that builds on itself. But if you just give up, then it's all for naught.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really powerful. That's really powerful. So what do you think are some of the what do you think are some of the trends, the future trends in automation and in this sort of stuff? Because now that we've got all sorts of great tools, we have autoresponders, we've got, all these different tools that allow us to leverage ourselves and to leverage our ability to scale sales in a way that was never possible before. What do you see as the future of this? Do you see like eventually there just being like some sort of software that we all plug our businesses into, or like, do you know what I mean? Like, is that... That's probably too...
I see the market going into verticals. And I'll give you an example on this. So, I go to a massage therapist pretty regularly, and she does a fantastic job. She's a one person business owner. And I was having a conversation with her about business. She was asking me about what I do, and I'm like, yeah, I help small business scale. And it was really a pain to book an appointment with her because I had to call her and leave a voicemail, and then she would call me back on her break, and then we'd have to schedule back and forth. It was like it was a mess just to make one appointment. And so I said to her, I'm like, why can't you just have like an online system where I can just go and book my own appointment, and I can even pay you in advance, and just make it so much simpler? And she's like, oh, that'd be a really great idea. Well, of course, coming from the space that I'm in, I'm like, well, there's add-ons to Infusionsoft, there's other things. Well, some guy just started up a company where he does exactly that just for massage therapists. So he has an online booking system just for massage therapists. And she bought it, and it's like, I don't know, it's like $30 a month. It's some ridiculously small amount of money. And she's like, it's so great. It saves me so much time, and I've got better cash flow and all this other stuff. I'm like, yeah, I know, right? So I'm thinking of that, and you're asking me, where do I see the trend? I see that's being the trend. There are these various automation platforms, there are these various CRMs and all these other things out there, but they're going to start going into verticals where this particular system works best for auto repair shops, and this particular one works best for massage therapists, and this one's designed exactly for doctors, and this one's for lawyers, and this one's because each business has its own unique type of nuances and requirements, and there's just certain things like Uber, perfect example. That particular system works beautifully for that particular niche. So I think that's where the industry is going to go, and the more specialized things are, the better they meet the needs of that particular business owner and that particular business style. And so that's the direction I see.
Now, and I agree with you because you see that like there's the Mind, what is it, the Zen Planner and all these other different tools for like yoga studios and martial arts studios and that. But part of like when I was, and this is kind of more of just for me, but I don't know. When you were talking about that, I'm like, yeah, but a business is a business is a business. I mean, every business needs referrals. Every business needs to generate leads and turn them into customers. So I totally get that. But I guess is it just more kind of repackaging the same? Is it any color you want as long as it's black, but put in just a different dress or what?
Well, maybe, but I mean, to your example, most business owners are busy and they don't want to invent the wheel.
Right.
So they want somebody else to do all the heavy lifting, and all they get is the result. And honestly, I mean, think about it, Daryl. Do we really care as business owners? Do we really care about anything other than the result?
No, not at all.
Just give me the result that I'm after. So if I want an online booking system, I don't really even want that, right? What do I really want? Well, what I want is customers to be able to come and pay me without me having to answer the phone or do any kind of anything. And that's what I'm after. So if you give me that, I'll buy it.
Right.
And I think that most business owners are that way. So, yeah, you're right. To some degree, every business is the same, and yet to some degree, every business does have special needs. And so if we can meet both of those, then there's a total win across the board.
And it almost comes back to the marketing. I mean, the tool might be the same back end tool, but geez, it's got 7 different white labeled front ends because it has to speak to the potential person and their situation.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, okay. No, that's definitely clicking for me. Yeah, okay, that makes a ton of sense. I definitely get that. Um, it's just come such a long way. Do you think that there's been any big changes? Like, we're talking about the future, but seeing where we've come from, I mean, you've been at this game a long time.
Longer than most, yeah.
Longer than a lot of people. Do you think that there's anything that, like, what were the big significant evolutions? I'm just kind of curious. Because things, I think, it's almost like a kid. Like, you never really notice your kid or your pet or something, like, grow because you're with them every day. But if you were to just come back and forth and look at them over times, you'd see these massive growths. Do you think that that's happened in the business community at all? Sorry, I know I'm not trying to throw you like a wild ball, but I actually want your perspective as a guy who's been around for a long time. Looking back on how the communities have evolved, and even knowing that there's a ton of people out there that don't know a thing about any of this stuff. They're like, direct response, what? Like, all these businesses that depend on word of mouth marketing or just referrals, or, you know what I mean? Like, do you think there's been really big leaps and bounds? Do you think that there's massive gaps and some people are really far ahead and other people are far behind? Like, what do you...
Well, and to answer that question, there's some that are far ahead and some that are far. Most of the people who are probably listening to this podcast, I would assume, are on the cutting edge of what is available in the business world. I know for a fact if I stopped 1,000 business owners on the street and said, tell me about CRM automation tools and how it affects your business, most of them would look at me like a deer in the headlights, have no idea what the heck I'm talking about.
Right.
This stuff that we're talking about and the things that we're doing, I know it seems like it's been around a while, quote unquote, but in the grander scheme of things, it's still brand new. And then you add in like marketing platforms like Facebook. Facebook is without question one of the greatest marketing tools that ever was created, and it just keeps getting better and better for a marketer like me. And I'm looking at that going, this thing is only a couple years old, man. I mean, it's only a few years old. And so who really knows anything about where this is going? We don't even know how awesome this is going to be yet, but I know I'm investing in it. You know what I mean? So are there huge gaps? Absolutely. Here's what I do know. I do know that in terms of a trend, online marketing is going to overcome everything else and swallow it all up. It will become the single most profitable thing a business owner can do if they do it right.
Yeah.
And that's already true, I believe, from the perspective I'm standing in. But the newspaper is still out there, and there's a certain demographic that still reads it, and there's still other print advertising and magazines and so on, and certain demographics read those. But in terms of really being able to have a significant impact for most of the businesses I deal with, it's online marketing for sure.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think because you can reach people, and honestly, I mean, you test it online and take it offline. I mean, that's the other part. I mean, online dating, more people are meeting with online dating now than I think meet offline or anything. But guess what? You still got to meet offline to go for that coffee. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
totally.
I think, I definitely get what where you're going with that. Wow. Sorry, my wheels are spinning because, Bob, I got so much background knowledge like on you and everything else, and I think that there's just so much that we could cover in this time. I really think that...
we could go hours on this stuff, man. I love it. I mean, I never get tired of talking about business and scaling a business and growth and marketing. It's just so much fun.
Yeah, and especially seeing the results that you help get people. So
that's awesome.
That's I think the real benefit too. So now, for those people that are listening here, well, is there anything... Bob, was there anything that I should have asked you that I haven't asked you yet?
So I don't know that that's true, but there was one thing I did want to kind of touch on. Like, people have asked me a lot, like, what is, Bob, what's the thing I should focus on the most? Like, what one thing, if you had to pick one thing, and I'm trying to grow my business, and what should I really put my focus and energy on? I would make this the thing. I would say make revenue generation your obsession. Like, not like I want to do that, I like to think about it. Make it an obsession. Like, every day you're looking at it going, am I generating revenue? Is this what I'm doing right now, generating revenue, or is it just spinning my wheels? If it's spinning your wheels, get it off your plate. Give it to somebody else if it has to be done. But your job as the leader, as the business owner, as the director of the traffic, so to speak, you got to make it your obsession. You're totally obsessed with income generation, with revenue generation. And if you do that, you cannot fail.
I love that. You know what else I love about that too is I remember one of my mentors saying, Daryl, if you put full-time hours in anything, it's going to be really difficult for you to not be successful at that once you start gaining momentum. If you put
Well, and
full-time
also,
hours.
that goes hand in hand, Daryl, with like once you make revenue generation your obsession, then money fixes a lot of problems. So you got money rolling in now. You can just hire people. You have a lot more choices once that becomes a reality.
Right. Yeah. No, I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. Bob, I really appreciate your time today. For the listeners that have been listening and that have really enjoyed what we've gone over, if they want to dive deeper with you, if they want to get in touch, if they want to follow and learn some of the techniques and the nitty-gritty know-how stuff about automating the business that you've taught me, that you can share, what are some of the best ways for them to get in touch with you?
Well, two things. You can always go to my website, marketingautomationgroup.com. There's a ton of resources there, some videos, training, free stuff. But also for your listeners, I put something together specific just for the people on this podcast, and I want to give that out too. It's go to MAG-Authority, M-A-G, authority.com/bestbusiness. And when you go to that URL, you'll get a download. I put together a focus worksheet that I give out to my clients. It'll really help you eliminate distractions, shiny objects, and get back to that making revenue generation your obsession. It's a process. It's a one-page worksheet, but if you go through it and do the steps that are on that worksheet, and you are going to really like pop as like, okay, I know exactly what I need to be doing today, because I find that focus is really something that most business owners have to come back at, and like, am I focused? Am I losing? Am I off track here? And that worksheet will help you get back and get your mojo back. So again, that's magauthority.com/bestbusiness. And yeah, please use that, enjoy it, and send me some feedback if you get a lot out of it.
That's awesome. So everyone, that was magauthority.com/bestbusiness. Bob, I just really appreciate that. I know that you could be doing 101 other things with this time, and I know that some people on this call probably really needed to hear some of the stuff we covered again. For those of you listening, if you didn't, please go back and maybe listen again and take some notes if you weren't taking notes, which you don't know what you don't know, and if you don't take action now, if you don't make the notes today, it's just going to be lost. Don't wait for tomorrow. So
Totally.
Bob, thank you. Over the years, it's just been an honor and a pleasure to be able to learn from you, to watch you grow, and to just be part of your community as well. So just thank you so much for sharing with my listeners today, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you very much. You're most welcome, and thanks again for having me. It was a ton of fun, and like I said, I love doing this, and I'm happy to help in any way I can.
You've reached the end of our interview. Now, first, let me thank you for listening. I appreciate and respect you more than you'll ever know. And now I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. First, what 3 lessons did you just learn? What 3 aha moments just jumped out at you? Second, what can you implement for yourself and your business in the next 24 hours? Third, what can you give to someone else to help you with, or give them to just do it for you? Whatever it is, remember, taking action is the secret sauce to results. Now, if you think this interview would be helpful for a friend, please give them a link to it. It'll help them and it'll help me too. I'd also like to invite you to help me find out more about the challenges you're facing, your dreams, your goals, and how I can help you overcome what's holding you back. We both do better when we know better, and your success is my success. So please reach out and interact. You can visit our website, bestbusinesscoach.ca for Canada or California, where I'm from and where I'm living. You're welcome to also try out one of our paid programs. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and pretty much every other social media channel you can think of. You should also subscribe to the podcast, and if you're enjoying them, please leave us a nice review. It really helps. That's all for now. Once again, thank you. Take care of yourself, and remember, the world needs the best business you can build. And I believe in you. You.